Hey paisanos, it's me, Player Negative, and today we're talking about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I hope you're ready, because I got a lot to say. So let's start off with the obvious thing. There are going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to hear them, I suggest you don't watch this video until you watch the movie. Alright, let's start off with the few reasons talking about this. Me talking positively or negative about this has nothing to do with whether or not I like Nintendo the company. I want to make that very clear. I want to make that very clear because people are always like, if you like Nintendo stuff, then you're a grifter. If you don't like Nintendo stuff, you're a good guy. Like, it's just too black and white. Like, you can like the stuff, but you don't have to like the company. Let's start off with the positives. Number one, unlike the first movie, the pacing works well. It didn't go too fast with itself, and it didn't just skip all of the journey the characters had, like in the first movie. Number two, the writing for some of the characters was a lot more fleshed out than what I was hoping. To be honest, I'm glad that how they framed Rosalina getting kidnapped was more of getting caught off guard than just being kidnapped like Peach. Because the realistic thing in the Mario universe is that she's actually very powerful, so, yeah, I'm glad they did that. Another thing, I kind of like how the movie kind of fleshed out the Mario universe. Like, they applied a lot of mechanics and random things from the games and made it make sense in a living, breathing world, making it look like a place you could actually live in, or act like that. So, now to talk about the actual plot. For starters, Bowser Jr. as one of the main antagonists was a bit of a random idea for me, but does make a little bit of sense because Bowser's tiny. But to be honest, I'm actually surprised about how they wrote him. Normally when I see Bowser Jr. in a Mario game or in Smash Brothers, I don't go, oh my gosh, I better prepare myself. I go, oh look, it's an impudent runt who will crack under my foot until his skull is nothing but ash. But in the movie, they actually managed to sell him off as a legitimate force to be reckoned with who actually knows what he's doing. And the paintbrush and all the abilities it entails was actually really cool to me. I like what they did with that. Another thing I found interesting was how they used the power-ups in ways that made more sense than just traditional combat. Like, how I would explain this? Well, there's a scene in the Mario movie that's later on, like, when the story's beginning, in the beginning of the pilot, in the beginning of the plot, where basically, after Peach leaves and the Mario Brothers are forced to look after the castle, there's this whole montage that's kind of basically a more fleshed out version of how the levels work. Basically, there's this huge map of the Mushroom Kingdom, which is based off the one from Super Mario Brothers World, Peak. Mario and Luigi constantly get warning systems of something going wrong, but the way it's presented, it shows the red circles that represent the different levels within the Mario maps, which I think was a really cool way of showing that, and it showed each of the power-ups in action, it showed how both the brothers are capable. Sure, it was probably just squeezed in for added runtime, but it actually looks good and kept the pacing really even. It's short, it's sweet, and it's simple. Another thing about it is that it managed to balance the Nintendo character crossover. So no, for those of you who are wondering, it's not a Smash Brothers movie. I want to make that very clear. It is not a Smash Brothers movie, as much as you people want that. Like, apart from Rob and Star Fox, none of the other Nintendo characters overstay their welcome. They sort of just show up, give their simple nod, and walk away. And I think that was a pretty respectful way to doing it. It shows people who don't know the games, it's just a fun little thing. But those who do, they'll want to introduce it to their friends and explain what these games are and why people like them. Which I actually like that. Another thing I actually like is how they managed to flesh out the Mario Galaxy-like mechanics. And how each of the areas in the game are actually different planets and different levels with an entire airport called the Gateway Galaxy to get through to all of them. I also love how they made fun of Rob being slow and loud creaking noise based off how he first was introduced when the NES came out. That was actually funny. Another thing about it that I did like, Yoshi actually was pretty good at what he did. I thought he was going to be relegated to like stupid comic relief guy who does dumb things because to make the audience funny. But no, he was actually really well fleshed out and he was actually very helpful. I also love how they managed to tone down the licensing music. Like, you don't hear a random pop song every 5 seconds like in the original movie, like how Take On Me was used a bunch of times. They actually bothered to use the soundtrack in different scenarios, which I think was really well handled. Like, Yoshi's entire backstory is just, I showed up in Brooklyn one day, started walking around, and no one had problems with me until I accidentally knocked down a dinosaur. Like, you mean to tell me you guys had no issues with a giant turtle dinosaur dragon thing just walking about, but as soon as he knocked down the skeleton, that's when you guys started freaking out at him? I also like how Yoshi's abilities are actually being helpful and how he's just become a part of the group in an organic manner of how Mario and Luigi found him. And also the Double Dash reference, I like that a lot. And also, Star Fox. That sweet 2D animated introduction was just peak. I gotta ask myself, why didn't we get a show in that art style? That was some cool stuff right there. And to be fair, it was definitely neat because Star Fox fans haven't gotten a game in years. All these references and added stuff to the story made me realize two things. Number one, this was a good movie, and number two, I'm old. Now, this movie isn't without some flaws. Flaw number one, the pacing for character interaction. A lot of people have said, and I myself have come to the conclusion, there are some scenes where you don't really let the characters breathe or things just happen a little too quickly. Like, my brother told me the other time that the time it took for Mario to have a change of heart and save Bowser Jr. and everything else was the same amount of time it took for Yoshi's backstory to be told. And to his understanding, he was right. Some of the pacing is a little bit too off, and some of the character writing is just not perfect, but some of it is good. Like, for instance, Mario and Luigi's dynamic, Mario being the brave and stoic one, and Luigi trying to be the nervous but trying to be calm and collective, trying to be the voice of reason. It just seems right. And also, the dynamic of Bowser Jr. and Bowser was just really nice because, number one, it illustrated both of them as a threat, but also, two, it showed that he actually had a drive, a goal, and a motivation. Because he's not a sympathetic villain, but he's a villain you can slightly root for. Like, instead of just being a whiny schmuck, like in the games, Bowser Jr. is actually capable, and his main goal is wanting to impress his dad or try to live up to his expectations. And he does do this. I mean, even in the games he was doing it, because not only did he kidnap Peach and Mario Sunshine, but he also framed Mario for a crime. You know, something to step over Bowser. But here, they took the fact that he does slightly better than Bowser and took that to a whole new level, where he created an entire planet, has entire constructions of robots, traps, and everything else, and shows that he's a force to be reckoned with. How long has it been since we had a villain character who was actually scary? Apart from Jack Horner and Puss in Boots and Death, all the other villains we've gotten in any franchise have just been lackluster or just mid at best. But here, you have something both entertaining, but also something that has stakes that they can actually, fight against. Also, not to get into spoilers, but the Dry Bone Bowser scene, that hit hard. That was cool, and the fight was just well made. I wanted that to be an actual Mario boss fight. And I loved how they kept on switching the camera to have like a 2D perspective to remind you of 2D Mario. And there's this one scene in the movie that I do think was pretty good, but could have been a little bit better. One scene in particular was that Bowser Jr. had a Mario Maker level set up. Not what I was expecting, but yeah, good. That was a little bit rushed, but overall was cool. And I did like how they showcased older and newer power-ups. Like, for instance, you had the Drill Shroom from Mario Wonder paired up with the Cloud Flower from Mario Galaxy, because they're like showing the new and old stuff. I think the movies do a good job in terms of world building and fleshing out what made the game special to people, but in the character department, they're a little bit rusty when it comes to the main cast. The villains, they did well with the villains, but remember who the movie's about and who you're rooting for, people. So far, it's not for everyone. I'll tell you that. It's not for everyone, but it is a good movie. It's entertaining, but lacks some character depth. But then again, Mario is never known to have super deep, intricate lore, and I think that's what makes him so approachable. This movie made sense because unlike Marvel movies where you have to read through a bunch of homework just to keep up with the story, or like Star Wars where you have to deal with a bad director who ruins everything with their own political agenda, Kathleen Kennedy. Here, you actually have something approachable to anyone, because Mario is just that, approachable. He's simple and understanding. And that's kind of how the movie and story was trying to go with. And I think, to an extent, the movie fleshed out the world and did a lot of good service to it. But in terms of character and writing, it was a little bit sloppy. I would give it a... Honestly, I would give the movie a 7 out of 10.